All right, it's 5 p.m. and Major LC Citizens Oversight Committee will come to order. Member Burden will offer the invocation, and I'll lead us in the pledge. If you please stand.
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you yet again for an opportunity for us to come together in collaboration and service of our great city. Pray that you bless the staff. I pray that you bless all committee members, bless those that are absent. I ask that you continue to cover the city of Lancaster, Lord, and give us all direction and guidance on how to make this community great. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Have the roll call, please.
Committee members, Derryberry, absent. Burden,
Present.
Baker, absent. Tepe,
Present. Present.
and Sheriff Spock.
Vos.
Vote, I'm sorry. We have a quorum.
Common mistake. Thank you. The only items on the agenda are the approval of the minutes of the previous meeting, which are not attached, that I can see. Maybe they are, and I just don't see them. You got them? Well, we'll forego the consent calendar then, since we don't have a copy of the minutes, and just do it the next time. Right? We have no public here other than staff, I believe, right? Okay. So there's no reason to invite the public to speak to us, unless the staff members would like to come and talk to us about the budget before Mr. Harris. No? Okay. All right, George, it's your presentation tonight on the actual budget for fiscal year 24-25.
Good evening.
Good
This is always
evening,
the fun part of the budget process.
This
to get it.
is great.
I mean,
Fun.
because the other group that I stand in front of, they usually beat me up a little bit before, after, and during, and so I know that this group is going to be kind, and so maybe I'm setting myself up here, but
Yeah, noted. Maybe we're not being tough enough on you.
yeah, that's what I worry about.
So is this microphone on? It is? Okay.
Can you hear me?
That's better.
Oh, okay, let me get a little closer. So I will not be doing the entire presentation alone tonight. Tonight, I three department heads, and then Nick, city engineer, who's going to be helping me with the presentation. But we all know who you're here to see. You know, it's not the finance guy with the green visor. You're here to see the police chief. And you want to hear what's going on new with the police department. You want to hear what's going on new from the parks director and all the special events that we have going on. And so I'm going to be real brief. You're going to see me at the end because they call me the closer, but chief's closer. You guys, I know you stopped paying attention after he's done. But in general, we are here to talk about the Measure LC plan for fiscal year 2004-2005 that begins July 1st and continues through June 30 of next year. And collectively, the budget process, as it went to council on Tuesday, I want to say Tuesday night, but we've now moved those meetings to 1:30. So on Tuesday afternoon, council received the report, which was the full presentation of the entire budget. What you're seeing today is the excerpt from that's specifically related to Measure LC. We'll just go through And the reason I'm going to start off is because there's a fiscal element to these first couple of slides regarding these two major facilities that we have that are being constructed. And so we're going to be financing the construction for the MARC, which is our event center that we've talked about in the previous meeting, and the soccer conversion, the conversion to a soccer stadium of the old baseball stadium. And so that's was approved on Tuesday as well, the financing, the documents required to get that done. We received word about an hour ago that Standard & Poor's has finalized their rating for that bond issue and upgraded us from an A to an A+, which is good. 3 years ago, we had a transaction where we issued public bonds, and they rated that transaction with an A. Now that 3 years later, they actually believe, and it's true, that our financial picture is stronger than it was 3 years ago with the addition of Measure LC, which helped with the upgrade, as well as our reserve position that has grown and maintained a level of stability for the last 3 years. And so with that new information, they felt comfortable enough to increase our rating from an A to an A+, which is amazing. At the end of the day, what does that mean? That means that as we go into the market, we're a better credit. So hopefully that'll translate to cheaper rates, or more. We become as a more desirable option for investors, so they're willing to pay up to get those City of Lancaster Financing Authority bonds compared to somebody else that may be going to market that day.
So these are what, typical 30-year GO bonds?
They're actually typical certificates. So they're certificates of participation, lease revenue bonds. And the way that's structured, that's a very good description. A school district may call them general obligation bonds. Cities call them certificate of participation, lease revenue bonds. The transaction is a lease of our own items, of our own facilities, to raise capital to be able to spend it on these facilities that are, and in particular the MARC, which is off-site. We cannot use the MARC as a collateralized item because at the end of the day, it's not owned by the cities or planned to be owned by the city. It's going to be owned by the state as it's located at the fairgrounds.
What's the value?
Right now, the total cost is expected, and Nick will help us with that, but the total cost is right around $89 million. Bids are out, I believe, and we're waiting for them to be delivered. The financing is going to cover $64 million of that because we did receive.
How much?
64. Well, I'm sorry, 59 is what's going to go towards this facility out of our $64 million financing.
And that's only for this piece? It doesn't include the stadium?
No, so the total 64 includes this. I'm sorry, I'm misspeaking. It's $38 million for the MARC. Another $11 million for the soccer stadium. And then there's 3 other park projects that make up the difference between the MARC, what the MARC is costing, those facilities are costing, and the total bond issue. And then there's some cost of issuance built in there as well.
And the intent is to use Measure LC funds to service the debt?
That is correct. That is correct. And so when we get to that last slide, I wanted to show you the breakdown of how just like we do with every year, the breakdown of how
Sorry,
the
I'm ahead of
financing.
myself here.
Yeah, you're reading ahead in the book. Are you flipping? You don't have the presentation up there, but this is his 3rd year doing this, so he knows that there's going to be a list at the end of this presentation where we actually go through how the funding this year is expected to be spread around. All right, so with that, I'm going to bring up Nick, our city engineer, who's going to talk about these facilities and a couple of other items that we have highlighted out of the Public Works Department. And then after that, Sonia, and then Rod, and then I'll come back up.
All right.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Good evening, Chair, committee members. I'll touch base quickly on a couple of the public works related items. The first one is the MARC, Multi-Agency Regional Resiliency Center. It's a partnership with the AV Fairgrounds and the California Construction Authority. Design was completed and the project was advertised about a month ago. Estimated project budget, as George alluded to, $89 million. Includes a regional evacuation center that will double as an event center. I believe 8 basketball courts can fit into the event center, a regional emergency operations center, and a community kitchen. Bids are due to the California Construction Authority on June 27th, and construction is expected to begin in fall of this year after the AV Fair event. For the Lancaster Municipal Stadium, the United Soccer League and the City of Lancaster have entered into a long-term operating agreement for the use of the Lancaster Municipal Stadium. Part of the agreement is the city converting the former 4,600 baseball Jethawk Stadium to a 5,300 seat AV Alta FC soccer stadium. Design was completed actually last week, and the project was advertised on Saturday, actually was the initial press release or advertisement in the AV press. Bids are scheduled to be opened on July 2nd, and the recommendation for award of the construction contract will be made at the regular city council meeting July 23rd. Moving on to some of the maintenance items for Measure LC. The first one, weed abatement within the public right-of-way. With all the rain we had this fiscal year, starting with Tropical Storm Hillary last August, there's been an explosion of growth and an increase in density of weeds throughout the city. As of May 31st, Lancaster has had 173% of its normal average rainfall. So as you can see in the charts, the number of parcels cleared is down 36%. But the acres cleared, the hours spent are approximately the same as last year.
That's a separate contract item as opposed to city staff, right, that does the weed abatement?
I believe so. For illegal dumping, the number of locations visited and alley service remains steady this year in comparison to last year. We've collected a slightly lesser total tonnage weight than we did in 2023, but we've collected 20% more mattresses and 13% more tires. So we've managed to maintain roughly the same level of service as last year while reducing the hours expended by about 23%. And then last, graffiti removal within the public right-of-way. While square footage and the amount of paint needed have decreased by approximately 21% each, the number of locations has increased about 17%, and the amount of chemical required for removal has increased about 36%. And I think that's it for mine. I'll turn it over to Sonia for parks.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. All righty, so we're going to talk about parks. A couple things. So we have our Lancaster Community Center. We anticipate a significant investment next year using Measure LC, but Lancaster Community Center has become a true hub of activity, offering a welcoming space and diverse programs to ignite the purpose, place, and passion of our residents. So purpose, place, and passion is our tagline for the community center. We want everyone to have a purpose, a place to find their passion. Since the fiscal year began, we've seen over 10,000 visitors at the community center, and our numbers continue to grow and the interest continue to grow. So that 10,000 visitors equates to them participating in about 5,000 different programs at the community center, and this is all just in this current fiscal year. We've had 1,700 events, and we have a ton of sold out summer camps, and including Boss Kids Braiding, a STEM camp. So there's lots of activities currently going on at the community center this summer. And beyond open hour access to our computer lab, we have a game room, a maker space, and this summer definitely promises to be our busiest yet, as well as next year we anticipate to continue to grow our programs at the community center. So we've got adult book club, tiny chef's class, and a ton of engaging STEM activities, from computers, baby and parent play classes, art exploration, workshops, and much, much more coming this next year at the community center. All right. Our amazing Lancaster Performing Arts Center, known as LPAC, was founded in 1991. So a few years ago, we celebrated 30 years. It is truly a dynamic hub for arts and culture in our city in the Antelope Valley. LPAC offers a variety of diverse experiences for our community, really aiming to enrich everyone's lives. So there's a number of outstanding performances, supporting arts education across all ages, and really also boost our local economy here. People come to the theater, but they go to dinner, maybe stay on the boulevard afterwards, have a few drinks, so it's really as a vibrant part of the Boulevard District. The Innovative Arts for Youth program enhances education by aligning performances and workshop with Common Core standards, state standards, so that giving our young audience members that enjoyable learning experience at the theater. The LPAC also nurtures artist development through partnerships with local residence companies such as AV Ballet, AV Community Congress Association, Cedar Street Theater, and Lee Madelon. So next year's season will be announced on August 23rd. We are having slated right now to have 21 season programs, 9 Arts for Youth performances, and we'll obviously continue to support our local theater groups. All right, our special events. The City of Lancaster is proud to host a number of fun, entertaining, and engaging events for our community, including our annual Poppy Festival with a record 60,000 in attendance this year. So that's the largest ever in the history of the Poppy Festival. We had the honor to be voted the Valley's favorite event by the AV Press, and the favorite flower festival by USA Today's Reader's Choice in 2024. So some good acknowledgments from our community, as well as those beyond our community. Our staple events, including the 4th of July, which is coming up in a few weeks, Cool Summer Nights, the Farmers Market, Concert Series, Monday Night Bites, Bark at the Park, Halloween Hot Event, Field of Drafts, Magical Boulevard, Justice Sunday, and on, are all coming back next year. And I will note, this past Monday, our Monday Night Bites had 12,000 people, 1,200, I added a zero there. That's why I'm not in finance. 1,200 people come to Monday Night Bites. So that's between the hours of 4 to 9, 1,200 people. Last week we had 1,100 people at our Farmers Market on the Boulevard. It's happening tonight, so go check it out after you're done here. We expect to have another large crowd. So our events are obviously popular, and our community is enjoying them and using them. So in fiscal year 24, we had a combined total of 140,000 people at our events. And so these community special events guarantee fun for the whole family. It's an opportunity for families to gather and celebrate, make memories, really, and it builds our community vibrancy through our special events. So we intend and anticipate that our attendance will continue to grow as we continue to evolve and adapt our programs to meet the needs of our community. And that is the end of my presentation. So
Very exciting.
you get the chief
And you
next.
have the largest staff in the city, right?
I don't know if we're the largest. I think part-time staff for sure. I don't know. Are we the largest overall? I think we're right with Public Works, maybe. So, part-time perspective, yeah, the largest part-time staff.
Including all your part-timers.
Part-timers, yeah. Yeah, so, thank you.
Great job, thank you. Evening, Chief.
Good evening. It's good to see you, gentlemen. I hope everything's been going well. We've been busy. So, public safety. All right, so hybrid policing program. I mean, we are full steam ahead, and we're actually processing our first group of officers right now. And exciting things happening. In fact, a lot of the work that we're going to do has already begun with the public safety personnel that we have. So, but, and I believe it's on the next slide, we're super excited about the fact that we're going to be moving into our brand new facility across the street here almost on July the 8th. So I'm hoping that we can get you gentlemen to come out and tour the facility. So, and there that slide is, talking about our new station. So this is going to be a fantastic community police station. And it is not only going to house some very, very interesting and excellent technology that's going to help us keep safety going in the community, but it's also going to be quite the training facility with a training space where we can give either classroom training or physical tactics training to up to around 50, maybe even 60 personnel. It's also going to house our Intelligence Crime Assessment Center, and I'll talk a little bit about that here in a minute on the next slide, as well as it's going to house our virtual training center, which is going to feature a 33-foot long LED wall that is interactive. That's going to give us the ability to recreate any scenario we think of and put officers through it, but and give them the opportunity to make decisions and really importantly, learn de-escalation skills. So, and we also plan on taking community members through that so they can experience what it's like to be a police officer. And we can get feedback from them on the things that we do and what they think may make it better. And absolutely, the three of you are going to get a chance to go through that. So we're excited about that. We move in July 8th, as I mentioned, and also I want you to know anytime you'd like to stop by, please do. We'll be glad to take you on a short tour. So the department, as mentioned, and actually that date's changed, it's July 8th now. We pushed it back just a little bit before we're going to move in. As mentioned, we're hiring our first group of officers. And I want you to know, as I mentioned last time when I was here, I believe in having community input in the selection of our officers. It's essential we hire the right people. So besides the normal practice of having a department panel, we did have a community panel interview our first set of officers. And we included a variety of individuals in that, including a pastor, a local pastor, the president of the NAACP. We had Salva representation in there. And I think it's really the way to go. Get community input on who we're bringing to police our city. We're moving forward. And I want you to know we're being selective. We got to get the right folks. So those applications went out. Folks were excited. We got a couple hundred. We narrowed that down to 25. Out of that first 25, I really only saw 3 that we wanted. So it blasted it back out right now. We're going to make sure we get the right people to come and work in our city. We're doing the same with sergeant and dispatchers now too. And they'll go through those same processes. There's backgrounds and everything else involved in that, obviously. As mentioned a moment ago, our Intelligence Crime Center. This is fantastic, and we're already doing work in that area. We trained essentially 3 ladies who are trained at intelligence and crime analysis and paying attention to things that are going on out there and using the many different networks, tying in with other intelligence agencies, other police agencies, and getting an idea of what's not just happening in our city, but in the surrounding cities, in the state, and in the on the national picture. And they're doing such a great job already that we've got sheriff's homicide, sheriff's gang investigators. We've had some calls from folks from other states. We actually helped Torrance Police Department solve a murder, and just several different agencies are actually reaching out now and asking for our help. And we're not even fully up yet. So we're excited about that. And there's nothing else like this in the North County. There's no other intelligence crime assessment center going on in the North County. That'll be in there. And the other technologies, as you know, I've told you before about our drone program, which is absolutely essential and impressive and works and gets air support up here when the helicopter cannot come up because of high winds. ShotSpotter, we picked that up, and I know we haven't talked since then. This is an incredible system. So it is a shot detection system in the city, and it notifies law enforcement officers 30 seconds to a minute after that first shot was fired. They're notified not just where that shot was fired at, but they get a picture, we can put it on cell phones or MDCs in the vehicles. They get a picture of the house or the area where it was fired at, and you actually see numbers on the ground. So if a gentleman or a suspect, excuse me, was running and shooting, you'd see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it takes them within feet to where those shots were fired. But even more importantly, it gets rescue to down victims so much faster, because the normal process is you would call and say, I heard shots. And it's up to law enforcement to figure out where that happened. This system literally sends us right to where the incident occurred. It's been really successful, and I'll just share a quick story. When we first put it up, we had an incident where 42 rounds were fired. It was a gun battle between two. The deputies were dispatched 30 seconds after the first shot got fired, got there and got one of the guys into custody. We weren't quite sure where the other rounds had come from, but we knew they had been fired. And the astonishing thing about this is the sheriff's department did not receive one single call from anybody in that community. Not one call for service that, hey, we got gunshots in our community. For us at Lancaster Police Department, we're like, why is that? We got to figure out why that happened. So we went out a couple of days later and did surveys because we want to make sure we don't have a community that's being terrorized. And sure enough, as we went door to door, we did learn that we have residents who were afraid to call. We had some residents who were concerned that the sheriff's department wouldn't be able to help with it. And some folks who were just like, can I call you later? I don't want to talk to you. But a few folks in there were saying, that house right there is a problem. Turns out that was the second shooting house. And also now we know we've got a problem house in our community that they're afraid of. So our department's working on that to see how we can deal with that problem. Flock, we've talked about that before. Automatic license plate reader cameras, incredible, a great investigative tool, and lets us know every time any vehicle that's wanted anywhere enters our city or passes in front of one of those cameras. And then the virtual training center I spoke about again. This is fantastic, and we're not only going to use it for law enforcement, but we're going to offer it to other departments in our city because we have the ability to completely control it. And if they decide they want to send somebody in and see how they deal with an irate or angry customer and work their way out of trying to bring that person down, we're going to use that there as well. And as I mentioned before, give community members a chance to go through. And then CCW, that's important to the mayor, concealed weapons permits, we will be offering those as well. And I think that's it for me. Now we bring back the real star.
Thank you.
Second you sit down, they clock out. We're here to see the chief. So really, let's just quickly get into the numbers and what has Measure LC, how has it performed over the last 4, going into the 5th year of Measure LC. If you recall, we thought it was going to be a $13 million a year tax. It has performed significantly better than that. So collectively, at the end of fiscal year 24-25, we would have received close to $92 million in revenue from Measure LC over its first 5 years in existence. And so it's not an insignificant revenue source. It's not an insignificant contribution that the residents are making into paying it. The beauty is the way it's constructed is it's not just our residents paying it. So anybody is driving through and shops in town, if somebody comes up from Palmdale and buys gas in Lancaster, it's contributing to that tax base. Also, and I think I've explained how the car sales work. So if somebody can't find a car in the city of Lancaster that they want to buy, because we don't have a BMW dealership, you want to buy a BMW, you have to go somewhere else that has a BMW dealership and buy it. But because their zip code of where they reside is in Lancaster, that transaction is levied the 75 cents on the dollar, wherever that may be in California, and then this comes back to us. And so when we actually do an evaluation of all the car sales that take place that contribute to the total amount, we stretch as far out as San Diego, up as high as San Francisco, where people are buying cars all over the state. that 75 cents comes back here to Lancaster, no matter where they buy that vehicle. We dipped a little bit in 23, 24. The numbers through 22, 23 are actuals, so we did receive the 21.6, which is a slight upgrade to what was originally budgeted. And 23, 24, we are on pace to make that 20,837,000, and then the projections for the next fiscal year is 21,404. So we really couldn't identify why there was that dip in 23, 24. A lot of it has to do with BYD. So BYD sells vehicles or buses to AVTA that year, we get a little bit of a bump. And so we notice that on the regular sales tax side too. So we that ebb and flow happens with their transactions. Everything else is really pretty reliable, but that is one plug that if AVTA purchases buses from BYD in that year, we get about a $600,000 bump. If they do not, we see the drop. And so that's
so what you're talking about then is point of sale revenue.
Mm-hmm.
So all of this proposed industrial development that's going to take place in our jurisdiction as well as our neighbors,
mm-hmm.
those points of sale then become a revenue stream for Measure LC.
Absolutely. So if there's
assuming
that
there's point of sale. If there's
POS
not,
is here,
there's not.
correct. And so the beauty of that is we know there's a few distribution centers that are going to be coming, and if they are citing their POS here, then that's going to be a huge bump for both the regular sales tax side and the Measure LC side. And there have been some changes in the law that do not direct those sales into the county pool like they used to. And so I can explain that on another day. But for those cities that host those types of fulfillment centers, they got a huge boon of new revenue that would normally have been distributed by way of the county pool. They got sourced back to the host city. And so a lot of efforts went into play 10, 15 years ago, over the last 10, 15 years, to bring those types of fulfillment centers in town. And what was happening is, as long as the actual ownership of the fulfillment center was outside of the state, then that money went into the county pool. What happened, and I'll just name one name as an example.
We never saw it.
Right, well, one name as an example, not saying that they're doing anything here locally, but Amazon, the second Amazon went in and purchased their fulfillment centers and owned them in the state of California. It wasn't out-of-state ownership. That then changed the rule, changed the way the sales tax were allocated, and the host cities are now getting 100% of that. So a lot of those cities, Rancho Cucamonga, Ontario, Rialto, Fontana, they used to get a fraction of those sales because they were going into the county pool and everybody was getting a piece. The second that changed, now all that money's coming to them. So they are aggressively fighting to make sure that doesn't change. What does that mean for Lancaster? That's the rule now. If we're hosting some of those agencies, they cite Lancaster as a POS, then we start getting those revenues here. These are the last 2 years of how the funds were allocated. I know it's a little small, but really the point that I'm making by showing you the last 2 years is the shift from how we were able to allocate a lot of the funding initially to one-time funding, right? We got that money in that first year. We allocated it to a lot of one-time projects, right? As we progress on to the next year in 2024, it's a lesser of the allocation is going to one-time items, and that's actually being locked in as ongoing regular expenses, operating expenses. And so if you notice, there's really only in the current year that we're sitting in now, there's really only 3.4 million that's set up for one-time activity. Everything else is going into being a reliable revenue source for our ongoing operations. As we get into the next budget year, there's no money going to one-time items. It's all being rolled in as a much-needed, reliable source of funding for our ongoing operations, and we knew that was going to happen. So the idea up front was to make sure that before that happened, that we had these one-time items that really needed to be taken care of, and before we actually got used to, right? You got accustomed to having the operations at a level where we needed Measure LC to support operations. We got a lot of those one-time items out of the way. And so this is our allocation for 2024-25. When I put public safety up there, that is not intended to be the total cost of public safety. Total cost of the police operation, which combines what Rod and his team do with the sheriff contract, is closer to $51 million. What this is a calculation of what is taking place now since Rod and his team were hired compared to what we were doing prior. So I take the difference of our public safety budget prior to Rod and his team and prior to us pulling the trigger. I guess that's a bad pun. Prior to us pulling the trigger on the hybrid policing model, what the difference is. So in that first year, it was about 4.3 million. Last year is about I hate quoting numbers, 10.5. And then this year it's 11.4, the 11.4 that you saw on the slide there. So right now we're spending $11.4 million more in police efforts with the hybrid model than what we were doing prior to going that direction. For the MARC, really that's the debt service. That $3 million has been allocated for debt service for the bonds. It's a short year, right? So this next fiscal year, we're gonna go to market in 2 weeks. On the week of the 24th, we're gonna price those bonds. They're gonna close probably in July. First year of debt service is expected to be about 2.5 million, so we budgeted 3. So once again, it's having the general fund become accustomed to that spending so it doesn't get absorbed anywhere else. And then we have to make cuts. What's that?
4.2, 4.8.
Yeah, well, the rate, we won't know. So for when you price bonds, we're going to price the bonds at a coupon rate of 4%, okay? The total yield that we pay is going to be based on how the market reacts to that 4% coupon rate at the time that we go to market. So if they think that that 4% coupon rate is attractive compared to everything else that's being offered in the market at that time, then they may be willing to pay us a little bit more, buying the bonds at a premium, right? That will yield us more money at the end of the transaction too, because we are only going to have to pay off the original principal amount. If they pay a premium to get that 4% rate or that 4% coupon, they're going to pay us more money, and that yields more capital that we've raised. When we calculate that coupon rate against what that ultimate price is that they pay for our bonds, that's only then can I tell you what the actual cost of capital, total overall cost of capital
Well,
is.
that's the target number you're looking for.
That's the coupon that we're going to offer, and we'll see how it reacts, how the market reacts to it when we go to market.
Sounds good.
It's a good rate, right? I mean, it's really hard to treat it like a mortgage because when you're doing a bond transaction, it's like you don't have one investor, that one bank lending it.
It's about a $40 million debt service over time then,
Yeah. So, the debt service on the capital or on the interest costs will be about that. The other line items are the ones that were described to you tonight by the staff, by the department heads. LPAC improvements at 2.1. Community center operations. Remember last year that was about a $1.4 million total operation. This year it's 877, not because we're doing less, but because we had a lot of buy-in capital to get that operation up and running. Now it's more of an operations story. So those costs have come down. Citywide events, 1.2 million. And then we had some positions that we hired earlier on in the process that we haven't let them go. So it's an ongoing obligation of Measure LC to support those positions. And then illegal dumping and encampment cleanup. If not for Measure LC, we wouldn't be able to do it to the volume that we're doing it, the way that Nick had described with the volume of stuff that we're collecting in the community. I forgot about the tagline, the creating a better tomorrow together. I remember when we came up with that was pretty cool. And then Jason, when he says together, he stands up and pounds his chest. We must do it together. So thank you tonight. We did it together with the help of these other department heads. And if you have any questions, we're available to answer them. I got to pound my chest. We're doing it together. Let's go. That's my best Jason impression. He usually says it a little different, but yeah. If you know Jason, then you know what I mean. No, but great leadership with the council this year in developing the budget. They gave us their priorities up front, and we stuck to them. The commitment to building the mark, the commitment with the soccer program, the commitment of fully building out the police department and moving forward with that has really set the priorities for Measure LC and the entire budget this year. And so we're going full speed ahead on all three, as well as maintaining all the other stuff that we do as a city, as an organization. And
So what was the proposed budget the city council looked at Tuesday night?
the total amount, we're right at 318.
318?
She said she doesn't remember. If you don't know, Vidi is my assistant director, and she knows the numbers like the back of her hand. But at this moment, no, it was 331 or 318. Yeah, it was 318 million total city. The general fund, which is where these revenues reside, is 114 million, and so the 21 is a good chunk of that 114 total general fund.
Substantial
revenue.
Impact to the general
Absolutely,
fund.
absolutely. Irreplaceable, actually.
We'd be struggling without it,
We would have to say no a lot.
and you wouldn't be getting an A+,
No.
nor have the reserves that we have.
That is 100% correct. And so thankful for the work you do in overseeing the activity.
All pluses.
All pluses, all pluses, true. So thank you for your input, and the work that you guys do in reviewing and keeping us in line and making sure we stay committed to the original dream of what we were to do with Measure LC, but the original focus of the spending, making sure that we are adding that blend of public safety, infrastructure, parks and amenities and all those things that we said we were going to do when the measure originally passed. And so that's the intent of this committee. That's the intent of the presentation. That's the intent of the decision making that we make. When we know and we identify how much we're going to bring in, we have pretty good direction on what we're going to do with it as a result of those original conversations that we had when it was first brought aboard. So it makes it easy. When I have a roadmap on what to do with it, we make sure we stay in those guidelines, and it makes it really, really easy. Rod appreciates it. Sonia appreciates it. Nick, he just got here, but he's going to learn to appreciate it. And it definitely makes my job a lot easier knowing that we have that revenue there to support everybody coming to finance and asking for something. It's a lot easier to say yes. So that concludes our presentation, unless you have any questions.
Yeah, thank you for all you guys do. Great work. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Anything else?
No questions. I'm gonna tell Jason you did a good job.
Oh, thank you. He doesn't hear that often, so I appreciate it.
I don't believe that. Stop milking it. I don't believe that. Excellent job, George. Excellent job, Rod, Nick, everyone. I always tell people you kind of don't know what goes on here unless you visit. We do a lot of great things up here. I love my community. I love seeing all of this stuff play out. Like you guys, many of you know my son Knowledge. I take him to a bunch of stuff in the community, and he enjoys it all. So thank you, guys. I appreciate everything that staff is doing. Appreciate it.
When did you say your grand opening was going to be, the 8th?
So we're moving in on the 8th. I'm not quite sure when the city's going to do the grand opening. I'm assuming it'll probably be in August, that we'll have an actual grand opening. But you gentlemen are welcome anytime. Just reach out, give me a call, or however you'd like to, and we'll
All right,
get you
very
in.
good, thank you. All right then, anyone else care to share with us tonight? No? All right, we'd have no public to address us this evening, so that brings us to adjournment. So, unless there's something further from staff? No?
Nothing further.
None? All right, thank you. And thank you again for all your hard work. Certainly, day to day, obviously, from the results that you're producing. We certainly appreciate it. I do personally, so. So we'll stand adjourned then to our next meeting, which will be